Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has hidden unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure, or admire an old one. What will we find today? Let's dig in. Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
Fire can comfort us and keep us warm, but it can also destroy. God is love, but He is also wrath. In many places in the Bible, fire is a symbol of the presence of God. When fire came from heaven, it was God's judgment. Or when God sent fire from heaven to consume Elijah's burnt offering, it was a symbol of God's power and approval and presence with Elijah in 1 Kings 18. Moses encountered God in a bush that looked like it was on fire but wasn't burning up. It was God's presence. He was on holy ground. God demonstrated His power and leadership of the Israelites by a cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night. Can you imagine being an Israelite in the wilderness? For 40 years, you would wake up in the middle of the night and see the flames of God's pillar of fire flickering in the night sky outside your tent. And you'd close your eyes and fall asleep, knowing God was in control and all was well. God's presence was also expressed in fire on the top of the mountain as He gave the law to Moses. In both the Old Testament and the New Testament, God is called a consuming fire. We find it in Deuteronomy 4:24. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. He wants nothing else before Him. And in Hebrews 12:29, it says to approach God with reverence and godly fear. For our God is a consuming fire. This same fire we saw in the Old Testament is present in the New Testament as well. John the Baptist foretold that this one who was coming would baptize with fire and the Holy Spirit, which we see at Pentecost. All the believers were gathered together, and they heard a sound like the rushing wind that filled the house. Then what looked like tongues of fire appeared and settled on each of them. Each one of them had their own personal burning bush. The result of this fire was a filling of the Holy Spirit and salvation of about 3,000 people in one day. How do we see God as a consuming fire today? Not quite as much physically as spiritually. When we believe, the Holy Spirit comes to live inside of us. That fire is a consuming passion to know more, to study His Word, to learn about Him, to grow in relationship with Him, to love Him more deeply, to serve Him, to be more like Him. And we don't want to quench that spirit, put out that excitement, or put aside that passion. We want to cultivate it, feed it. If we do, however, it will be painful. Our God is a consuming fire. He burns away things in our hearts that shouldn't be there, things that get in our way of knowing Him more, attitudes that aren't godly, sins, other passions that don't fall in line with God's plan for us. Just anything that keeps us from being who He wants us to be. We see this concept throughout the Old Testament. Malachi 3:2-3 says, God is like a refiner's fire. He will purify the sons of Levi as though they were silver and gold. Proverbs 17:3 says, fire tests the purity of silver and gold, but the Lord tests the hearts. So tests are one way God purifies us with His fire. Psalm 66:10 says, for you have tried us, O God, you have refined us as silver is refined. But Isaiah explains it, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Peter continued the theme in 1 Peter 1:7. Trials show that your faith is genuine, more precious than gold, even though tested by fire, will result in praise and glory and honor on the day Jesus Christ is revealed. That transforming fire consumes all of what is in us that is not of Him and purifies us. How have you seen God doing this in your life? You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you'll find in the description below. I'm Carla Early, and thanks for listening. And remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.